All right, I think we're streaming live on YouTube. Um, so we're here today to talk about youth wellness in Summit County at Summit High School in Breckenridge, which is where our two guests are located right now. I think that this is a community that's been through some really hard things in the last couple of years, and there have been high levels of mental health challenges among students. I've spent the last couple of months reporting several stories from Summit High School in Summit County. And so today we're going to dive a little deeper into some of the problems and some of the solutions and some of what's working with our two guests. We have Anna Howden, school psychologist. Why don't you give us a little wave, and sources of strength coordinator at Summit High School. And then we also have Angela Gutierrez, who I believe is a sophomore at Summit High School. Welcome both.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being here today. So, for our some of our viewers right now are in state, some are out of state. Let's just kind of locate you for a second. Summit High School in Breckenridge. You're in the Rocky Mountains. World famous ski resorts are close by. It's a very, very beautiful place, but maybe also a challenging and hard place to live sometimes. Tell me if you can, how does the environment influence wellness in Summit County, in your opinion?
Yeah. I think a lot of people live here for the great outdoors. We find a lot of purpose being outside with whether that's our activities or nature. And so I think it can positively impact wellness, as well as it snowed last night and it's graduation this week. So is it graduations inside, outside? So I think sometimes the weather can impact your wellness too, with just the seasons and the storms and the long winter.
The unpredictability.
Yeah.
Yeah. Angela, how about you? What do you think about your community, this place that I think a lot of people have heard of and maybe desire to go to?
Um, I think it's very beautiful here, and yeah, it has a lot of positive impact, but as well as we are a very small county, and like if you don't get along with someone, it's kind of hard not to see them around or not to interact with them or anybody else that you might not get along with. And it is a little hard when, you know, it's always snowing and your plans get changed, and it's just it has a lot of positive impacts, but at the same time, it can impact people very negatively. It just depends on the person.
That's interesting. Some extremes there. Thank you. So let's talk about youth wellness and mental health. Anna, describe to me from your position as a school psychologist and the sources of strength coordinator, what are some of the main kind of mental health challenges you've seen among students kind of since we came back from the pandemic? What's big?
Yeah, we've really tried to focus on belonging, and feeling part of the community here at Summit High School, because it was isolating for teenagers. Developmentally, they wanted to be around each other, with each other. And so we've tried to focus on making sure it's a welcoming, fun community that, if you're feeling well, then you can learn your academics better. So the importance of building relationships. And Angela and I talked a little bit yesterday about some common struggles, and we kind of boiled it all down to relationships. You're in that time where you're figuring out your identity, who you are, how you fit in. And so whether that's friendships, significant others, or your family, it's really the struggles come with relationships and how you view yourself or how you think other people view you.
Okay, great. Um, Angela, tell me a little bit about, from the teenage perspective, what are some of the challenges that you see in your own life or your friends and classmates' lives that feel kind of pretty significant?
A lot of what I see is a lot of friendships are starting to come apart because, yeah, we didn't really get to see each other for a long time. So now that we are finally able to interact with other people and meet other people, I feel like everybody wants to explore and expand. And that can lead to people not wanting to be your friend anymore, or you not wanting to have certain friends anymore, and people change. And so I know a lot of what I have to deal with and what my friends have to deal with is losing friends or having miscommunications, as well as a lot of family problems that just affect your like overall life. It affects every part of you, and that kind of leads into why you like lose relationships. I feel like a lot of people, they don't realize that they could be losing things, but not because of the reason that they thought. It could be something that's deep underneath. Because I know me and my friends, a lot of the friends that I have now are people that I did not get along with in middle school or in elementary. But I think it's just because I always stayed so close to the friends that I had originally made that I was scared to expand. And now that I have the opportunity to, and we have people coming in from the middle school and from all like parts of the world, it's nice to just expand and to get to know new people.
Mm. And this is probably a question for Angela, but Anna, feel free to weigh in. Um, in Summit County, there are, many immigrants and migrants. There are many service industry jobs. And I think that creates maybe some somewhat unique circumstances in some families, family responsibilities, extra jobs. Describe to me, Angela, if you can, what some of those responsibilities look like at home.
Um, for me, it's mostly with my little brother. Um, I have a little brother, he's 10 years old and he's going to the middle school. But my mom, she is busy. She has a job, and she works as a bus driver for the school. So she works in the mornings and in the afternoons, and usually like throughout the day she has some time. So she'll do whatever she has to. But of course, after work, she has things she has to do. We have a store in Mexico, and my mom gets donations. So she's loading a bunch of stuff and taking it to Mexico. And my siblings, they all work. And if they're not working, they're out with their friends because they've been working. And I don't mind taking care of my little brother. I really like my little brother. I love him. But yeah, it's just sometimes it's being an extra parent when I have to be.
And would that be a fairly common dynamic among students at Summit High School? Of course, not everyone, but are many students juggling things aside from extracurriculars and academics?
Yes, I would say they are. A lot of students that I know, if they don't have younger siblings, they work after school or they're doing sports. One of my friends, she has to do a sport, and if she's not doing a sport, then she has to get a job. So she's always been doing a sport ever since elementary. And she doesn't have any siblings, so she is occupied with her sports, and that's about it. But she does love doing track and field, and I know a lot of my friends have younger siblings, and one of my closest friends, my cousin Ricardo, he has two younger siblings, and he's basically the only one that can be there for them in the afternoons while his mom works, and he works at the movie theater, so he works long nights. But when he's not working, he's taking care of his siblings, or he's hanging out with someone, or going out with our family.
Question for both of you, and we'll start with Anna. What would you, and again, this is a question for both of you. What is something about teenage life right now that you think maybe adults and parents don't understand? Like, what would be kind of your message for them as the school year wraps up? Misconceptions or lack of understanding. What would you want them to know?
What come to mind for you?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, go. Yeah, you first.
For me, I would say like relationships with a significant other. I know like a lot of the times when like if I get into an argument with my boyfriend and I go home and I'm upset, my parents or my siblings, they're gonna be like, why are you upset? Like it's a dumb reason to be upset. You guys are teenagers. But like I try to make them understand that yeah, we might be teenagers, but we still feel things, and to us it's serious. And right now that's like relationships are very important to us and building those relationships and keeping them. So I think, yeah, it's just hard for adults to understand that relationships to us are serious, might not be for them, but it is for us.
Okay, very
Yeah.
good. And Anna, how about you and your kind of encounters and dealings with parents when it comes to youth wellness? What are some misunderstandings or some messages that you'd really want parents and kind of other outside adults to understand?
I want to say listen and validate emotions of your teenagers. I think we jump in really quickly to try and solve the problems, but kids in high school, they need some guidance and maybe not an answer right away. They want you to listen. They're not necessarily always asking you to solve their problems, but to be there and kind of just, yeah, guide them through it. Because we're always asking them to like think of the next step. What's next? What's after graduation? What classes are you taking next year? What sports are you going to play? What are you putting on a resume? And so if we just want to like kind of be in the moment with them, listen to their struggles, listen to their triumphs, listen to all the great things, and just validate what they're feeling.
Let's talk about social media. So, Colorado recently passed a bill to regulate social media. We know from the Surgeon General and, research and personal experience that there is an addictive quality, that there are some mental health concerns around a lot of social media use, but that it can be helpful for some young people who aren't able to connect with others in real life, and it can be a useful outlet. Angela, how do you use social media, and how do you feel when you use it?
Mostly, I use social media to talk to my family that I don't get to see often. So I use Instagram mostly to talk to my cousin that lives in Denver and my other cousin that lives in Greeley. But I do post on social media. I wouldn't say frequently, but occasionally I do post. And I think when I post, I kind of have an expectation for my friends to like my post and for my family to see it and at least say something. But I feel like a lot of the time when they don't, it doesn't really bum me out. I don't pay too much attention to it. Obviously I do pay attention on who does comment, who does like, and who shares it. But um, for me, social media isn't really a big part of my life. My mom, she never let me have a phone until I got to middle school. So I never had a phone. And then when I did, I didn't really want to go on social media. I didn't see an interest in it. And even now, like I use social media just to look at things when I get bored or to share something with my mom or my siblings, but I don't really use social media that often. I wouldn't say I'm addicted to it. And for me, social media is just a way to communicate with my family.
So many kind of positive associations there. Do you feel like there's a piece of life in high school that takes place on social media that's separate but related to what's happening actually in the building and after school?
Yeah, a lot of sports, and a lot of clubs and stuff, they have their own like social media accounts now, and they're using that to like obviously spread what they're doing and try to get people to join. Um, but also like we have a lot of accounts that like are like SHs, like lookalikes, and they will compare someone to someone else. Um, and no one really says anything, and if they do, someone will take it down. But I feel like when you see a post on either a sport account or a club account, if you see yourself in it, I know like with me, my friend, she does track and field and she sees herself on social media, but she doesn't have social media. So sometimes I'll show her like if she comes out in a post and she'll look at it and she'll kind of like she'll get silent. I know she doesn't really like to see her photo up, especially if she doesn't get to see the photo before they put it up and like, someone doesn't ask her, but when other people see that post, and if someone posts something negative about you and it gets around the school, I know that that can be very, like, it can affect someone very negatively.
So it sounds like kind of many different levels of interest and usage when it comes to social media, just depending on many circumstances. Anna, what do you hear from students who come to you talking about concerns over social media or frustrations with how they use their phones? What do you hear from students and how do you respond?
From students, I think when there is something that is alarming or that they know they should report, they do come and show me a screenshot or one of our administrators, and we use Safe to Tell, the great program in Colorado. That's really helped prevent a lot of things, where students can anonymously report things that they've heard or seen. But yeah, I think a few years ago, our school had a little bit of he said, she said, you said, like 7 degrees of separation all the way down through social media, where you're like, you don't actually talk to that person in real life. How does that person know this, or what rumors have started? So I think social media does perpetuate some rumors, and I do think students don't see it as much as an issue, but the phone is more of an issue, regardless of social media in the classroom, that we're managing with a generation of teachers that didn't have phones, right? So we're trying to keep up, trying to balance out the benefit versus do we just take them away? Do they stay in their pocket? To try and just keep school a welcoming place for everyone.
Let's talk about another pretty significant mental health concern and risk, self-harm. There were 2 student suicides a few years ago in close proximity to each other. What did healing look like after that? And how often are there crisis situations these days? We can just start with the first question. What was that time like and what was healing like after that, after those incidents?
Um, uh, it was a little bit unknown because we were in COVID, we were in lockdown, we weren't allowed to be with each other. And I think that's something that we managed using the online things like message boards and things that we could write. We had great counselors within our building and within our district helping, um, as well as just, I guess, healing happened when we came together and talked about it. And we started our program here at Summit High School called, it's a national program, Sources of Strength. But we adapted that here at our high school to talk about when you are stressed, challenged, things like that. What do you do to get through it? Because we do a great job here at our school district with risk factors, warning signs, things like that. But we've focused on trusted adult campaigns. We've talked about Safe to Tell, and then the Sources of Strength has 8 pieces that you can use to manage challenging emotions, right? Uncomfortable emotions. So
Was there
when
those colorful wheels posted
Yes,
up around the
it's
school?
colorful feel. And it's positive friends, family support, mentors, healthy activities, which gets to our environment. A lot of people report outside activities, but that could be individual, like baking, reading, things like that. Is it recharging or refreshing you? Then there is generosity, which we focused on a lot this year, spirituality, so a purpose greater than yourself, physical health, and mental health. And we talk about mental health a lot in a positive, that when you are in an uncomfortable headspace, right? You're either an anxious person, an angry person, or a sad person. And when you're feeling that large emotion, what are you doing to get through it? Um, so like, what is your go-to emotion?
I go through everything, but probably first thing I do is cry.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's probably my first thing. When I get frustrated, I cry. I get sad, I cry.
me too.
It's just my first one.
But then what do you use on your wheel? Because yours is pretty powerful, I think.
For me, it's probably family support.
Mhm.
And if not, probably healthy activities. I will go out, take a walk just to clear my head, or just like try to write down what I'm feeling so I can identify it better.
Yeah. Awesome.
Angela, you had a personal loss in your family, I think around that same time, as the student deaths. It sounds like a lot for a teenager. Do you remember how you helped yourself around that time?
Mm, Honestly, at first, I didn't do anything to help myself. I didn't want to talk to anybody about it. Um, I was constantly sleeping and I just wanted to be by myself. I didn't really understand what I was feeling. I remember one day I told my mom, like, I'm always just so tired and I just want to sleep. And she said, well, you're grieving, and that's normal. And then after a while, it just got easier to talk about. And I started talking about it and how I felt and like what I went through. And I think getting to that point where I could talk about it was just talking to myself about it. That's when I started really like trying to identify what I was feeling. That's when I turned to writing a lot. And I realized how important it is to communicate because my brother, he didn't really talk about his feelings. And I feel like that was a large part of what happened. Um, so that's when I started trying to talk more and trying to normalize that it's okay to not be okay. Um, and that it's hard to get up in the morning and it's hard to go to school and it's hard to live like every day without my brother. But I think it's easier when I know that I can talk about it and that if I need help, I have someone to help me.
Leigh, we can't hear
Oh,
you.
the old mute button. Okay. And so, Angela, give me an example. Um, who would you go to in those situations, and what would that conversation be like that would, feel healing or therapeutic for you?
For me, um, at the time, the person that I would talk to the most was my cousin. Um, I would just I would ramble the same thing. I don't know how he didn't get annoyed, but I just tell him that I was tired and that I didn't know what I was feeling, but it hurt. That's all I know, that it hurt. And um, a lot of the time, I feel like it was mostly just me needing to get it out. I didn't care if he responded. I didn't care if he gave me advice or not. I just needed to say something. And a lot of the time he did tell me like that he was there and that he understands that it's just nice to have someone to listen. It doesn't matter if he said anything or not. He listened, and that was honestly the greatest thing that he could have given me at that time.
Thank you for sharing that. It's a great example. We're coming to the end of our half hour here. I wanted to just highlight some of the data that we have all discussed quickly, and I'll just bring up a quick data point looking at my notes here. So, Summit High School in 2021, 36% of teens reported depression. Last year, that number fell to 20%. Similar drops, well, teens reporting that their stress has felt manageable has gone up. Students, thinking about self-harm, those numbers have gone down. So these are some pretty significant improvements over a short period of time. I know we can't say exactly why because it's very complex, but I'd love to hear from both of you your reactions to students essentially saying, we're starting to feel better after a very difficult period of time. What's up with that, you think?
I think we're together. We're having fun at the high school. Like there are a lot of events that we're doing with assemblies and Spring Fest and even just small things like on Leap Day this year, we put hopscotches on the floor and said, grab a positive friend and leap down the hallway. So we have very simple messaging, and then we have larger messaging about generosity and belongingness. And so it feels really good. It feels like the work that the peer leaders are doing is really paying off, is really letting them take the lead on school culture and changing that as to what they want it to be. Yeah, so I'm very, very, very proud of all of the peer leaders here at the high school who've worked very hard these past couple years on this.
I would say just yeah, like having being able to see the people, like all the peer leaders in SOS, and like see that they're your age and they've been through what you've been through. It's very nice because you can relate to someone, and it's a lot easier to talk to someone your age than it is to talk to an adult.
Okay, we are heading into summer and school will be out for, 2 months or whatever it is. A lot of what we've been talking about during this past half hour in some ways are school-based, programs and examples and time to spend with friends and being able to connect. The next few months, students will be working and teachers won't be around having eyes on them all the time, and some people will be traveling. When you think about summer and advising students on how to stay resilient, what to do if they need help, like where to begin. What is your advice kind of from both of you on how to handle like the disconnection of summer if a student is having trouble?
Um, I would say reaching out to your friends, and if not that, just like talking yourself through it. That's the best way I can describe it. I know a lot of the time when I'm alone and I don't have Miss Howden or any of the teachers that I usually go to or any of the adults that I usually go to, and if I can't reach out to my friends, I will talk myself through it. I will try to figure out what I'm feeling, why I'm feeling that way, and how I can make myself feel better. And if I just don't want to talk to myself, if I don't really feel the energy to fix it, um, that's when I know I need to reach out to someone. And it's hard. It's very hard to communicate. It's never going to be easy for anybody because you're learning every day. And I think just being able to tell yourself that it's okay to feel that way and it's okay to ask for help when you need it. And it's not going to be perfect, no one expects anything to be perfect, but just being able to accept that and being able to put yourself first and try to help yourself whenever you can, I think is the best way.
Relying on yourself somewhat. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah,
And
and
how about you?
yeah, Angela talked a little bit about like distracting yourself or positive thinking, but for people that do need some resources, we have a lot that we have listed on our district website. We are a community that is full of resources. We are rural, we are small, but we are wealthy in our resources. So we have Building Hope, which provides some therapy and scholarships for it. Through our local providers. We have FERC, which is our Family Resource Center that can help in another program called Smart Belly. So when there is insecurities, whether that's around mental health, food, housing, there's lots of resources in our community that we partner with as a school district. Because yeah, we talk about trusted adults within the building, but in the summer you might not have as much access to a trusted adult in school. So who are your trusted adults outside? Because we focus a little bit, positive friends are really important, and when it feels too big to reach out to an adult.
So while we know that on one hand, there are some issues with access and affordability when it comes to getting help, and, are the local therapists, do they have the cultural competencies and the language capabilities? At the same time, there are a lot of resources out there that are available to help in like many different ways, depending on what your need is. Um, Listen, thank you both so much for joining. It was so nice seeing both of you again. For our listeners, I will just add, and I should have done this in the beginning, but it's, better late than never. This conversation is part of Remaking America, a 2-year reporting project that provides a platform for communication, comprehension, and change. It is funded in part by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. I am Leigh Paterson. I'm a senior editor and reporter with KUNC. A big thank you again to our wonderful panelists, Angela Gutierrez and Anna Howden, coming to us from Summit High School. It was so nice to talk again. I hope you both have a wonderful summer.
Thank you, you too.
Thank you as well.
Bye-bye.
Bye.